have any zillennials in your teams? I mean, I see that they are a little bit of a different, I wouldn't say different, they're actually, carrying what we could have done earlier, but they're just going a little fast, right? So have you seen?
Born after 1990, is it? What is, I'm so like bad with all these things.
I think so. I mean, the zillennials are, I think technically they would be 21 to about 27 now. I don't know.
Yeah, college and beyond.
Yes.
So we have interns. Every 3 months, we make sure we shift, we change interns, especially for communication and outreach. And we've done high school, we've done college, we've done fresh graduates, and the way they work, the way that they understand things, their intuitiveness with social media especially is very different. And also these are the same people that are doing 7 different things at the same time, in addition to just trying to get through college and like get their degree. So in terms of like doing a lot and acceleration, it's there. In terms of wanting to make an impact and wanting that to see that change, that's also there. So, with working with them, there's a lot of, again, expectations in terms of what is the impact that you want to see in your lifetime, as opposed to what 3 months or 1 year is going to get you. And those are really hard conversations to have, because it's reminding them that it's not about them. It's about the fact that this is a lifetime's work, and bringing that kind of a reframe in helps their mental health and helps them kind of go for it longer.
True. I mean, they're those digital natives, right? They're born there, but one thing I see is they're also deeply connected to causes. But how do you really my thinking is, how do you really manage them to bring out their greatest potential in the teams? Because there are a lot of us with different multi-generational workforces, right? So it's always a constant struggle that I hear leaders and managers saying, how do we keep them engaged? They need to experience things. I don't think they like to be told what to do, because mentoring is totally not for them. They need to be coached, right? You give them the safe space to experiment, and they want to decide the end results themselves. But how do you really manage this? Because in a business setting, I mean, it's still important to go focused on the goal. So you can't really give that experimentation a chance there. So it's really a very, I would say, a gray area for a lot of leaders. Any light that you guys have on that will be useful to understand.
It would be to do what you're just saying can't be done, which is to give them the space to experiment, because that's how they learn best. And this is where there is a huge gap between senior leaders and, because they're like, how can you look at 3 screens at the same time and pay attention to me? That's almost seen as disrespect. But for them, they're taking down notes at the same time. They're like, oh, they said something, let me look that up. I'm not sure what that means. Plus also maybe talking to somebody on social media. They're able to do all of these things at the same time. But to senior leaders, that might be seen as being disrespectful. So it's about bringing them together to be like, this isn't disrespectful. This is the way that they work, and this is the way that you work, and finding a common ground there. And the thing with organizations and businesses is they work the same way for far too long, and it's not working with this generation. So there has to be a culture change that comes in. So even now with hybrid working and all of that, the culture change is actually not that great, especially for women. Like, gender roles have been set back, I don't know how many years, and with young people even more so. So they need to understand what's in it for them, why they're doing it, why is it important? Like, why are you just asking me to do this? Tell me the reason as to why it's important. So communication has to change to come from the why. And then you will have them fully passionate and doing what they're doing. So instead of do this needs to get done, the communication changes to why it needs to get done and why it's important and why them. Like, you have these skills, you will get it done. So small tweaks like that, which can be really large for organizations, would be super effective.
The space is so important, Priya, like Bhairavi mentioned. And I hate this word man management. It's people management, right? Or talent management. And our head of production, actually, he's still in his 20s. You sort of fine tune when they come on board initially. Yes, there's a bit of mentoring. It's a bit of guidance. It's not like do it this way, do it that way. You sort of, you show it that way. And then once they know, once you reach a certain level, they know what to do. Here and there, you just need to manage them. Once you get to know them, it's a lot easier. And now in his case, he's not even 30, the head of production, and he's managed to handle projects in every continent barring Antarctica. So that's also a challenge, right? Dealing with different cultures and things like that. It's not easy, but that's important, because once you've gotten to a stage, like no one's going to teach LeBron James how to shoot the basketball. Simple as that. You sort of fine tune, you say, okay, maybe do this, maybe do that. You're not going to sort of, impose too much, if that's the word.
Correct. So I think clearly not the micromanaging lens, right? So you're just kind of encouraging them by just taking a step back and seeing what they come out with before you have the next touch point with them, right? Good.
And I think a lot of it's going back and just thinking about helping them understand from the last situation, letting them think about what did they learn from it? How can they get better with it? I have my entire sales team has 2.5 years of sales experience. I have one guy who's going to school full time, and everyone keeps forgetting that, and he works full time. And so but we empower them to kind of think about how they want to approach their job, think about how they want to get things done, and not having someone micromanaging them, and letting them kind of unleashing their potential. And they'll come to you with questions, and they'll come, but you don't need to be the one checking in with them. They'll check in with you a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Good.
And I had a similar experience a week ago. It was my very first time that we were working on a new product launch, and I had nothing to do with it. And it was the worst and the greatest feeling all at the same time. And I went in and I was presented to just as everyone else on the team, and it was done 10 times better than I could have ever done myself. So it's thinking back to 5 years ago, where I looked around the room and everyone in there, I was that person. It would have been a team of one, Tony. And to be able to look around and see all those people who had worked together to accomplish something was great.
Yeah, it's funny, a couple of years ago, I almost got thrown out of a shopping mall in Bangalore. Our crew was filming. It was a Cricket World Cup trophy tour, and I hadn't gone. So I said, let me just go and, see what's up. So I saw them filming, but none of them were picking up their phones because they were in the middle of the shoot, and neither was the client. But I could see them in the distance. So the bouncer was like, get in line. If you want to touch the trophy, get in line. I said, I'm part of the crew. He said, no, but where's your ID? I said, no, I'm part of the crew. He said, no, get back in line. I kept calling. 5 minutes became half an hour, 45 minutes. They were busy shooting. I didn't want to scream and create a scene. Finally, the bouncer brings 2 other guys and says, this guy's behaving suspiciously. Then he's like, where are you from? What are you doing? I said, sir, I'm part of the crew. Let me come. He radios in and says, he's like, I need to check with Coromandel Productions if you're allowed to enter. And at that moment, I said goosebumps now. I didn't know whether to laugh or to cry. I said, it's mine. I'm the owner. And they said, oh, I thought an old man is coming. I said, okay, good. You complimented me. So but again, that's what these are the small sort of instances that, again, I go back to that, those tough times, you always think, oh, okay, this happened.
Wonderful. Good. And one final question to all of you, right? So companies like Google, right, have a 10x multiplier thinking as their hiring criteria. Now, if you have to grow your business or your impact by 10x, how would you do that?
I think it goes back to thinking about the why. There's a really good book that ties into that, Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And you think about the organization, you're the kind of start of the megaphone, and you're the why, and then it goes out to the how and the what. And you can't do all those things on your own. And so it's putting the right people in the right seat on your team, and amplifying that why message for the organization, and being the person who's kind of started the rallying cry, but then it's your team who's really gonna get that work done.
But how do young organizations attract talent? You see always the best talent goes to the best companies, and now you have to deal with kind of inspire people that you have a strong vision, that you have a great sense of focus and determination and outlook for the business. But how do you hire talent? Any experiences in bringing, how can young organizations be a magnet for talent attraction?
For me, it goes back to authenticity. Are you living especially for the kind of work that I do, right? Are we doing everything? Are we doing the same thing that other people are doing? No, we have our own path. It's a scale for growth, absolutely. The space needs more people. We need way more people coming in and doing more things. But you also speak a language that they understand, and you do it in a way that gives them value, because as much as people want to go join the big companies, there are so many people that want to work for the soul, and they're willing to do whatever it takes. And you yourself have said, Priya, this generation is very focused on activism and causes. And if you're able to link to that, which is more than just like CSR or more than just like a marketing line, you get the best of people coming in, and you get people who are very aligned to what you want to do and how you want to be.
Okay, good.
Yeah, when we have people come in to interview, they interview with the whole team. So they meet everybody. And I think that's an important way to show them the culture and to see how empowered we make a lot of the team.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And same for us. I mean, it's a value system thing as well. You be caring. Some very often, I mean, the entire core team, I always tell them, if you don't smile and can't make jokes, it's not the right place to be, But look, I mean, sometimes it can be a bit tricky, but like, Tony said, a lot of people who get in touch with us also are getting in touch with us because of the work that we're doing. And I'm sure in a lot of cases, Bhairavi can, sort of, resonate, that might resonate with her as well. Because you very often get an email saying, hey, seen this, very inspiring. We just want to know more. Can we help? So that is quite cool. So the reference point is already positive.
Wonderful, wonderful. So it's about having that visible stories out, right? So I mean, incidentally, you happen to be in the video production where you can actually give people the visual experience, but actually being a little vocal about your vision and passion. I think that's what can kind of be that attraction or magnet for others to come over and join your teams, right? So they see a larger win for themselves by being part of you, I think.